To make the love note jumper, you're going to start with a sweatshirt and go ahead and mark out about how big you want your envelope to be. Mine was 25 centimeters wide, and you're going to take that measurement and multiply it by 1.5. So mine was 37.5 centimeters. Then you're going to take your fleece fabric and mark out a square with that measurement, the 37.5. And you can check the diagonal measurement to make sure that it is that 25 centimeters, and then go ahead and cut it out. So I wanted my envelope to have rounded edges, so I took a circle stencil and marked out that rounded curve just to make sure all of the corners were the same. Then mark the center measurement and go ahead and fold the outer two edges into that center point, and the bottom edge up and the top edge down. And this is just to check to make sure that the envelope is looking how you want. Then it's time to make your red heart. So just take some red scrap fabric and trace out the shape of heart that you want. And go ahead and cut it out of your red fabric. Next, mark a line down the center of your sweatshirt and also mark the bottom line of where you want the envelope to sit. Once you have the placement how you want it, go ahead and fold all of the flaps outwards and pin them down. I ended up sewing my envelope down on the left, bottom, and right sides. But actually, if I'm going to do it again, I'm just going to do it from the top and from the bottom to make it more like a hoodie pocket. So once your hoodie is sewn to your sweatshirt, you can hand sew or glue, if you'd like, the bottom flap and the side flaps just to make it a functional envelope. Next, you're going to take that heart you cut out and zigzag stitch or serge around the outside. Finally, you can attach your heart to the envelope. And if you have some Velcro or a snap, you can go ahead and attach it to the underside of the heart and also to the top of the envelope. And then you're finished. This cute little heart-shaped tote is actually very simple to make. All you need is 2 shell pieces. I use this really bright, nice red corduroy, 2 lining pieces, and then 1 more piece made out of that shell material, but it's just the lower half of the heart. You'll also need 2 long pieces for the straps. First, take that exterior pocket piece, zigzag stitch along the top, and fold it under to hem. Next, take one of the outer shell pieces with the right side facing up. Then put your hemmed pocket piece on top, also with the right side facing up. And then take your second shell piece with the right side facing down. And then sew from the widest part of the heart all the way around the bottom to the other widest part of the heart. Before you turn it right side around, make sure you clip all the curves. At this point, it actually starts looking like a bag. Next, take your 2 lining pieces and lay them right sides together. And sew exactly the same way that you sewed the exterior shell pieces. Next, you're going to want to stuff that lining inside your purse. Next, you're going to want to fold under the edge of both the lining pieces and the exterior shell. And you can use an iron to make it look really crisp. Now before you sew the lining to the shell, you're going to need some straps. Now take those long rectangular pieces we cut out before, fold them in half like a taco, and sew along the raw edge. Once the straps are turned right side around, you should probably do a top stitch just to make sure they lay flat. Finally, find a good placement for your straps. I find that along the highest part of that heart curve is for the best, and pin it in place. So one strap is going to go from the top part of the heart on one side to the top part of the heart on the other side. And then the second strap is going to be the same, but for the back side. Once you do top stitch all around the top of the lining and the exterior shell, you're finished. So to make this cute little corduroy skirt, I hacked Berta Style pattern 6252. This pattern has some square front pockets that I decided to replace with my own heart-shaped pockets. I did pretty much what you saw with the heart-shaped purse, except I sewed almost all the way around, leaving just a little gap to fold the whole thing inside out. If your heart's looking a little bit smooshy, don't worry, an iron will fix it. After that, I pretty much put the skirt together exactly how it says in the instructions. I sewed the side seams together, the back seams together, and then I folded under the front two parts to make that button placket. Next was putting together the waistband. And then it was finally time to sew down my heart-shaped pockets. I top stitched all the way around, although I think if I were to do it again, I would sew it up a little bit higher because the way they are, they're a little bit floppy. At this point, I was really excited by the way it looked. Next, it was time to make 4 belt loops, which to say that it was frustrating to turn corduroy fabric inside out is quite an understatement. This was really a trial of my patience. But I finally managed to get all 4 turned inside out and sewed down. The final step was to add all of the buttons. For the Sacred Heart blouse, I started off with this little bustier that I had thrown together a few years ago as kind of a test for a self-drafted pattern. I didn't hate the results, but it was just kind of plain, so it's been sitting in my closet for the last few years, until finally I thought of this idea. I had this image in my head of more of a corset style that's low in the front and higher on the sides, so I went ahead and trimmed a curve shape from both hips. For the actual heart, I decided to recycle some lining fabric from a skirt that I'd made a few years ago, but again, never actually wore. You can see that Sook is modeling it quite nicely. Again, rather than attempting to hem the heart shape, I decided to just cut out 2 heart shapes from that lining fabric and sew them together. I really wanted this piece to have sort of a historical look to it, so I decided to hand sew everything. I hand stitched along the outside of the heart shape to make sure it would lie flat. I had some white lace remnants I decided to put to good use. The original color was bright white, which was way too neat and clean for a historically inspired piece, so I just went ahead and dyed them in coffee grounds. I find it gives it a more natural look. I really wanted the lace to look very fluffy and lush, so I decided to fold it over to give it a double layer, and then gathered it by hand. I sewed some of the lace around the heart and then saved the rest for the top edge. I decided it really needed some glam. So I took this gold trim and I decided to sew it directly to the top in the shape of the heart. So finally it was time to sew the heart to the corset. And I also went ahead and added the lace to the top edge. To make the accessories, I pretty much use it as an excuse to just go to Dongdaemun Craft Market and buy every heart-shaped thing I saw. I had this idea for an Elizabethan pearl necklace. I just needed the perfect center pendant. So to make this necklace, you'll need a jazzy heart pendant, some heart beads, although they're not actually required to be as tangled as mine are, and a toggle style clasp. You can also add some other beads to your design. I also realized that it would be really hard to make the style I had in mind without some crimp beads. I used this stretchy cord, which I actually wouldn't recommend. You're going to start by putting the crimp bead onto your cord and then sliding the bar part of your toggle clasp on as well. Go ahead and slide your cord back through your crimp bead and pinch it in place. I was actually really careful to order gold crimp beads because I knew they would be right front and center in the necklace. But of course, as soon as I pinched it, the gold foil just sloughed off. Now it's time to add your pearl beads. You can pretty much go with any pattern you want. I decided to put on 5 pearl beads at first. Make sure that you hide the end of your cord or wire in those first few pearl beads. Next, I had one of those smaller heart-shaped beads I had, followed by more pearl beads. So you can pretty much finish your necklace in any design that you want. When it's finally time to finish your necklace, string on another one of those crimp beads. Next, add the loop part of your toggle clasp, but make sure you slide it through the main loop and not the smaller one. I know this is not how it's usually done, but bear with me. Next, tuck your string back through the crimp bead, but make sure before you pinch it closed that you pull it as snug as possible. You don't want too much loose string. If you're having trouble fitting the string through those pearl beads, it can help to use a needle to kind of widen the hole. Now it's finally time for that glitzy heart pendant. Use that smaller loop that we didn't use before and attach the pendant there. I really love the way this necklace turned out. I think it looks really unique. I saw these 2 pink heart-shaped clasps that I knew I had to find some way to use. I also had this pink chain in my stash. I also used some of these jewelry making pins to attach the beads. I bought a little collection of heart-shaped beads. My original intention was to make a bracelet, but then I realized I don't really wear bracelets because I find them kind of annoying to be clanging around as I'm working, and I feel like this was a good alternative use for them. I also found these cute little heart beads in my stash. Another thing I picked up were these heart-shaped, I'm not sure what you would call them, rings, I guess? The first thing you're going to need to do is attach all of those beads onto their own little pin. Next, attach your chain to your clips. I knew I wanted to intersperse those heart-shaped rings with the chain, so I attempted to sort of evenly space them. I'm putting it next to a ruler to make it seem like it's mathematical, but I really kind of just eyeballed it. I thought it looked really cute with all of the heart-shaped beads on it. I really wanted to have a piece of chain dangling from the front. Unfortunately, I didn't have any more of that pink chain left. I'm kind of torn about how this silver chain looks. What do you think? How do you think it looks?